Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC television podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I am happy to be with you for another episode. We are now into the month of June, which used to mean, a summer full of reruns. I grew up without cable. I know I lived in the hinterlands. Actually, we had a black and white television until I was, 10, 12, something like that. I'm old, but I'm not that old. And so summers were the time of reruns. We had 3 channels, 3 when CBS would actually come in. Sometimes we only had 2, and then eventually we got PBS, but that wasn't until high school. I'm telling you, I lived in the hinterlands, but hush. So for me, when I think of summer, I don't think of new television shows. I think of reruns and not really watching TV. It was more of play outside, read books, do all those fun things, and then in the fall, you'd get the new fall lineup. However, television, as you know, has changed, and now we have streaming sites. We have streaming sites. We have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have YouTube TV. We have so many different ways of watching, and so there really isn't a downtime in the television premiere world. In fact, part of what we're going to talk about today is the summer lineup that's happening. We're going to talk about the summer and the fall lineups. Fall being a little more traditional. There is still a fall lineup, but there's also now a summer lineup. So that is kind of fun. If you are looking for something to watch this summer, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that are coming out in June and July. If you are looking for something to watch, you can definitely binge watch, since a lot of things are coming out on streaming. For instance, let's look at this list. June 5th on Hulu, The Handmaid's Tale. That would be season 3 of The Handmaid's Tale. And if you haven't seen the first 2, you can always binge watch and catch up. This is one of those series that the first season was based on a novel. It was based on Margaret Atwood's novel of the same name. And then it was critically acclaimed. It was popular. It did so well that they went ahead and expanded it past the novel. And it now has a season 2. And now season 3 is premiering tomorrow. So you can start watching that tomorrow if you're looking for something to binge watch over the weekend. Or if you haven't seen it and you want to start catching up, you can start watching and then binge watch. Or you don't have to binge watch at all. You can just spread it out. I'm not here to tell you how to watch TV. I'm just letting you know what's out there. Black Mirror also premieres tomorrow on Netflix. This is season 5 of the science fiction anthology series. It has 3 new episodes featuring Miley Cyrus, Anthony Mackie, who was in Avengers Endgame, and Topher Grace. The last installment comes, this latest installment comes less than 6 months after the special interactive Black Mirror, which was called Bandersnatch. It released in late 2018. Did you watch that? It was kind of a choose your own adventure if you read those books as a kid. I always died. I never made it through those books. But there were points in the episode where you got choices. Should the character do this or should the character do that? And then you would choose, and it would take you onto that storyline. You could then, sometimes things would happen and it would end, and it'd be like, well, that's the end of that. And you could backtrack to make a different choice. And I don't know how many different variations there were. My husband and I watched it, and I know we didn't go through all of the variations, but we did go out and backtrack through some of that. So season 5 starts tomorrow, and 3 episodes. It will not take you long to watch 3 episodes. I will have to, again, let my hubby know that tomorrow he will have something new to watch. June 7th, that is, what is that, Friday? Yes, June 7th, Designated Survivor comes out on Netflix. This is the White House thriller starring Kiefer Sutherland. It was canceled by ABC at the end of its 2nd season, but it has been resurrected by Netflix. You can catch up on the first 2 seasons, which have also been streaming on Netflix, and then the launch will be on June 7th. Per Netflix, the new season will explore today's world of campaigning, smear tactics, debates, campaign finance, and fake news. Democracy as we know it will hang in the balance. This is the other cool thing about all the different ways you can watch TV. Sometimes things get canceled and then they get resurrected somewhere else. You get a series that gets canceled kind of unexpectedly, and it gets a movie or a couple of seasons or couple episodes to actually wrap things up and give some closure on, like Netflix or some other streaming site. I really appreciate that, because I hate it when things get canceled in the middle and you get no closure. June 9th, that would be Sunday, premiering on HBO, Big Little Lies. And this is season 2 of Big Little Lies, but there are now 6. The Monterey 5, it says, are back for season 2, but now there are 6. This cast includes Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, Shailene Woodley, Laura Dern, and Zoe Kravitz. It adds Meryl Streep this season. She plays the mother of the late Perry White, and I talked about this a little bit on last week's episode. It's very exciting that Meryl Streep is joining, and I know, according to some of the comments from the other cast members, they are really excited to have gotten to work with her. So definitely check that out if you are a fan of Big Little Lies. Premiering June 30th on Showtime is The Loudest Voice, and this is Russell Crowe, who plays former Fox News chief Roger Ailes in this new limited series, which chronicles the rise and fall of Ailes' career. It's based on the book The Loudest Voice in the Room by Gabriel Sherman. The show features Naomi Watts as former Fox News host Gretchen Carlson, who sued Ailes claiming sexual harassment. Sherman co-wrote the first episode with director and Oscar-winning screenwriter Tom McCarthy. July 4th, 3rd season of Stranger Things. I am excited. You get that new Coke resurgence. Still waiting to see how that does. This is, again, season 3 of Stranger Things, and I love this sentence. The Hawkins crew takes on an even scarier demon than the Upside Down, puberty. It's the summer before high school, and Eleven and her friends are dealing with interdimensional terror and hormones. Expect romance and more demogorgons to complicate the group dynamic further. That sounds very Buffy-esque in terms of high school and horror. Orange is the New Black is premiering on July 26th on Netflix, and sadly, this is the 7th and final series of this final season of this series. I know a lot of people are bummed about that, although I know some people I've talked to think that it's time. So I don't know which camp you fall into, but if you want to watch it, July 26th on Netflix. And then July 31st on Hulu, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I am intrigued. Not my favorite movie, but it's interesting to see how they're going to make it into a miniseries. It is inspired by that 90s movie of the same name, which starred Hugh Grant and Andie MacDowell. This miniseries is from co-creator Mindy Kaling, which reboots the original with entirely different characters, but Kaling promises the show will deliver 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I may have to check that out just to see how it is, what is different, what is the same, etc., etc. Obviously, there are still 4 weddings and a funeral. Did you see that movie? Did you like that movie? I remember not particularly caring for it, but I can't tell you a thing about it except that Hugh Grant and Andie MacDowell and other people are in it. And I remember not liking it, but I can't remember why. So maybe I should actually go back and watch it 20 years later and see if I've changed my mind. Or maybe I'll just watch the miniseries and see what I think about that. It is time to take our first break of the podcast. When we come back, we'll be switching gears from summer to fall. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Television Podcast, and I will be right back.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. Before the break, I was talking about the summer lineup, some of the things that are coming out that you can binge watch over the next few weeks through June and July. And now it's time to switch gears to fall, which actually sounds lovely. I know it's only June 4th, but I'm already hot. I'm ready for fall, and it's barely summer, but that's okay. So let's talk about some of the shows that have been renewed or canceled. This time it is broadcast shows that have been renewed or canceled or ordered, at least so far. Of course, that can always change. This was updated on May 30th, and things, of course, could have changed since then and will probably change before the actual fall lineup. But NBC renewed The Blacklist. It renewed Blind Spot for the 5th and final season. Brooklyn 999, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, Chicago PD. Wow. Ellen's Game of Games, Good Girls. The Good Place. Yay. Law and Order SVU. How many seasons has Law and Order SVU been on? I should look that up. Manifest, New Amsterdam, Superstore, This Is Us, and that's been renewed for seasons 4, 5, and 6, and Will and Grace. So those are your renewed seasons on NBC. Canceled or ending series: Abby's, AP Bio, The Enemy Within, I Feel Bad, Marlon, Midnight Texas, Reverie, Trial and Error, and The Village. So wonder what you are thinking about that. If you're looking forward to some of those, if you are sad about any of the ones that have been canceled, there are some newly ordered series: Bluff City Law, Council of Dads, Indebted, The Keenan Show, Lincoln, Perfect Harmony, Sunnyside, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. We will probably be talking about those in the next couple of months before they are premiering. There's actually a description of some of those. For instance, Council of Dads. When Scott, a loving father of 4, has his entire life's plan thrown into upheaval by a cancer diagnosis, he calls on a few of his closest allies to step in as backup dads for every stage of his growing family's life. Scott assembles a trusted group of role models that includes Anthony, his oldest friend, Larry, his AA sponsor, and Oliver, his surgeon and best friend to his wife, Robin. These men agree to devote themselves to supporting and guiding Scott's family through all the triumphs and challenges life has to offer, just in case he ever can't be there to do so himself. The cast includes Sarah Wayne Callies, who is available now that The Colony is done, Clive Standen, Tom Everett Scott, J. August Richards, Blue Chapman, M.J. Anthony, Michelle Weaver, Thalia Tran, Steven Silver, and Michael O'Neill. So that is just one example of what is coming out this fall. Let's look at some of the other stations. CBS has renewed Blue Bloods, Bull, Criminal Minds for the 15th and final series. I can't believe it's been 15 years. That's amazing. FBI, God Friended Me. Hawaii Five-0, MacGyver, Madam Secretary, Magnum P.I., Man with a Plan, Mom for seasons 7 and 8, NCIS, NCIS Los Angeles, NCIS New Orleans. My parents will be thrilled. They love all three. We cannot call them during those times. Even though they have DVR, we cannot call them when those shows are on because they will be very, very grumpy with us. The Neighborhood, SEAL Team, SWAT, and Young Sheldon for seasons 3 and 4. Canceled ending series are The Big Bang Theory, which of course we knew, Elementary, Fam, Happy Together, Life in Pieces, Murphy Brown has been canceled, and Salvation. Newly ordered series, All Rise, Bob Hart's Abishola, Broke, Carol's Second Act, Evil, FBI Most Wanted, Tommy and the Unicorn. Interesting. Let's look at what the Unicorn is about. It is a comedy. A tight-knit group of friends and family help a widower move on following the most difficult year of his life, which includes being an ill-equipped but devoted single parent to his 2 daughters and taking the major step of dating where, to his shock, he's a hot commodity. A unicorn. Single dad, devoted single dad, etc. I'm guessing that's where that's coming from. Cast: Walton Goggins, Rob Corddry, Michaela Watkins, Omar Benson Miller, Maya Lynn Robinson, Ruby J, and Mackenzie Moss. ABC has renewed A Million Little Things, American Housewife, Blackish, Bless This Mess, The Connors, Fresh Off the Boat, The Goldbergs, The Good Doctor, Grey's Anatomy for seasons 16 and 17, How to Get Away with Murder, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Interesting. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has gotten really weird. Modern Family for the 11th and final season, The Rookie, Schooled, Single Parents, and Station 19. Canceled or ending for The People, The Fix, The Kids Are All Right, Splitting Up Together, Speechless, Take Two, Whiskey Cavalier. And then newly ordered series, The Baker and the Beauty, Emergence for Life, Mixed-ish, Stumptown, which we talked about last week, and United We Fall. Mixed-ish. So we have Blackish and then Grownish and now Mixed-ish, which is, as you can probably guess, about a mixed family. It is a prequel series, actually. It's set in the 1980s and stars Erica Himmel as a young version of Rainbow Johnson, the character played by Tracy Ellis Ross in this flagship comedy. So the show will see Rainbow Johnson recount her experience growing up in a mixed-race family in the 80s and the constant dilemmas they had to face over whether to assimilate or stay true to themselves. Beau's parents, Paul and Alicia, decide to move from a hippie commune to the suburbs to better provide for their family. As her parents struggle with the challenges of their new life, Beau and her siblings navigate a mainstream school in which they're perceived as neither black nor white. The family's experiences illuminate the challenges of finding one's own identity when the rest of the world can't decide where you belong. It is starring Erica Himmel, Tika Sumpter, Christina Anthony, Michael Michelle Harris, and Ethan Childress. And this actually sounds really interesting because even though it's set in the 80s, a lot of those issues still exist for mixed kids. Often feeling like outsiders, feeling like they're neither white nor black. And it's unfortunate because we should be in a different place 30, 40 years later than we were in the 80s. And yet a lot of those issues still exist. So hopefully this comedy will do a good job of addressing some of those issues and bringing awareness to that. How about Fox? Renewed series, 911, Bob's Burgers, Empire, Family Guy, Last Man Standing, The Masked Singer, The Orville, my husband will be so happy, The Resident, The Simpsons for seasons 31 and 32. They are, they're just going strong. Canceled or ending, The Cool Kids, The Gifted, Gotham, Lethal Weapon, The Passage, Proven Innocent, Rel, and Star. And real quick, we'll go through what is happening with the CW in the fall. And they have renewed The 100, All-American, Arrow for the 8th and final season, Black Lightning, Burden of Truth, Charmed, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Dynasty, The Flash, In the Dark, Legacies, The Outpost, Riverdale, Roswell, New Mexico, Supergirl, Supernatural for its 15th and final season. I, for some reason, thought that they were ending earlier than that, but apparently I was wrong. Canceled or ending, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Jane the Virgin, and iZombie. Well, now I can watch the entirety of Jane the Virgin because I am only partway through the first season because I'm behind on everything. Newly ordered series, Batwoman, Katie Keene, and Nancy Drew. I love Nancy Drew. I'm excited about Nancy Drew. I will watch Nancy Drew. It follows 18-year-old Nancy Drew in the summer after her high school graduation. She thought she'd be leaving her hometown for college, but when a family tragedy holds her back another year, she finds herself embroiled in a ghostly murder investigation, and along the way uncovers secrets that run deeper than she ever imagined. The cast is Kennedy McCann, Leah Lewis, Tunji Kasim, Madison Jaizani, Alex Saxon, Scott Wolf, and Alvina August. If you're a fan of the Nancy Drew books, you may want to check out this series, which has been ordered. So I am excited about Nancy Drew, and I'll have to put that into my fall lineup for watching. All right, we've taken care of summer, we've taken care of fall. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about a couple of more shows that have been renewed or their new seasons have been announced, a little bit of television news. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Television Podcast, and I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. We just finished talking about summer and fall lineups. Now I have news on a couple other shows that have announced that they are being renewed or that they're having new seasons. For instance, the show Taboo, which premiered on FX in 2017, starring Tom Hardy. It was created by Stephen Knight alongside Tom Hardy and his father, Chips Hardy. It was an 8-episode period piece starring Tom Hardy as the enigmatic James Delaney, a long-thought dead expat who returns to 1814 London to claim his father's inheritance. And there has been little update on the show since its first season finale, but now it has been confirmed that season 2 is definitely happening. The second season is almost completed. That's a quote, almost completed in terms of the writing stage. It will once again be 8 episodes long and will hopefully go into production in late 2019 or early 2020. Stephen Knight also confirmed that Taboo is currently designed to have a 3-season arc. So if you're a fan of Taboo, you might be looking forward to that. In other news, it has also been announced that Dead to Me is getting a second season. Christina Applegate posted on Instagram a picture of her and co-star Linda Cardellini, and it says, season 2, ? You got it! ! And then # Dead to Me. So if you're a fan of this season, it is coming back for a second season. Dead to Me stars Christina Applegate as Jen and Linda Cardellini as Judy, who become friends after meeting in a support group following the death of Jen's husband. But Judy is keeping a secret that could have disastrous consequences, and she doesn't want Jen to find out. Intrigue and mystery, always good. Let's see. Liz Feldman is back to serve as the showrunner and co-executive producer alongside Applegate, Will Ferrell, Adam McKay, Jessica Elbaum, and Christy Smith. The show is produced by CBS Television Studios. It also stars James Marsden, Ed Asner, and Brandon Scott. The premiere date for Season 2 has not yet been announced. Finally, in news that is not about shows that are being renewed or canceled or announced, etc., we have some news on the sadder side, and that is, it was announced yesterday that British actor Paul Darrow, who has died at the age of 78 following a short illness. Now, if you don't know who Paul Darrow is, he is best known for his role as Care Avon in the sci-fi BBC series Blake's 7. This is a show from the 70s. You maybe don't know it. I mean, it is a BBC science fiction show from the 70s, but it was really important in the world of sci-fi. It was on for several seasons. It was on for 4 seasons, and I'm not sure that we'd have a lot of the sci-fi shows we have now if it wasn't for this series. If you are a fan of sci-fi, you should definitely check out the show. You should know that, I mean, it is from the 70s and it's very dated. The technology is sometimes kind of hilarious, but it's worth taking a look because it did have, you'll recognize influence in a lot of shows that came after it. So, Care Avon was one of the characters. He was played, as I said, by Paul Darrow. Darrow was also in more than 200 television shows, including Doctor Who. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, then maybe you saw him there. He had a significant stage career, including 4 seasons at the Bristol Old Vic and roles in the West End. In the mid-1960s, Paul Darrow married actress Janet Lees Price, who he met when they co-starred in the popular ITV show Emergency Ward 10. They were together, this is according to the CNN article, or the BBC article, excuse me. They were together for 48 years before she died in 2012. Ian Walker, CEO of the Jack brand, said, "Paul Darrow has been Jack's shining star. Over the past 12 years, I have had the pleasure of spending countless hours with Paul, listening to his life stories, and have shared many bottles of his favorite Bordeaux, whilst enjoying his quirky jokes and sense of humor. When we first launched Jack in the UK, we cast over 85 voices for the role, and we could not have asked for anyone more unique. Paul's rich tones and flippant delivery style always brought a smile to everyone who knew him, and of course heard him on Jack FM and Union Jack Radio. I could not have asked for a better friend." Tim Parker, program director at Jack FM, added, "What an amazing, colorful character Paul was. He was mixed with the greats over the last 50 years and had a story to tell you for every occasion. His voice acting skills were like no other. We will remember and celebrate his career, personality, and amazing skills for years to come." I watched Blake 7 with my husband. I had not actually heard of it. It was a little before I was really paying much attention to television, and I don't know how I would have seen a BBC series as a kid growing up with very limited television access. But my husband saw it as a kid, loved it, remembered it, and found it as an adult, and just watched the entire thing in the last year or so. I didn't watch the whole thing with him, but it was a lot of fun to sit down and watch that show that was quite influential. So I'm sad to see the news that Paul Darrow has died, but happy to see the tributes to him, to read a little bit more about his life. He definitely had that. Avon's character was, I never quite knew where Avon's character stood in the show. Should I trust him? Should I not trust him? And he did a great job. Paul Darrow did a great job walking that line and playing that. The one tribute said, even as a voiceover actor, he had that flippant quality, and you definitely can see that in the character of Avon. So very sad to hear that news, thinking of his family as they remember his life and celebrate that life. On that note, sorry to end on more of a sad note, but thank you so much for joining me for the GSMC Television Podcast. Join me again next week when we'll talk about, television, news, shows. We'll see what's happening in the world of television next week. Have a great week in the meantime. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.